Welcome to part 3 of my favourite films from each year of my life. Let's not beat around the bush. This is about trying to give you an idea of my motivations for what I like in cinema, films that are important to me, and filmmakers that were important to me because they appear year on year as we go through. We're going to start in 1999 and we're going to go through to 2008, which means we've got one part to go off this. We'll start with 1999 with as big a toss-up as I really had. Lots of great movies in 1999. The Matrix was out in 1999. I really liked The Matrix, but I did see it shortly after a film called Dark City with Rufus Sewell. I think it was Dark City you called it. That basically had the same premise and kind of ruined some of the impact of The Matrix for me, even though it didn't have any stylistic tropes that The Matrix had. The Insider was at the year, one of the great acting performances I think from Russell Crowe. Fight Club blew my mind at the time. Still does blow my mind as it goes. Being John Malkovich, again, blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like that in cinema and absolutely loved it. And then it came down to two. And the runner-up was American Beauty. And American Beauty was one of the first DVDs that I had to go out and buy and own. It is one of those things that made me want to go out and buy a DVD player because I wanted to see the extras on it, and the extras are incredible. Like Kevin Spacey, Annette Bening. I think Annette Bening's performance is one of the great female acting performances of all time as well in it. Mina Suvari, yeah. You get the idea. American Beauty is incredible. But I seen a movie this year that encapsulates everything that I like about that filmmaker and has become my favourite filmmaker that I've discovered this year. And that is Pedro Almodóvar. You've heard me speak a little bit about him before, but All About My Mother came out that year, and I just think All About My Mother as a film basically has everything in it. It really has you rooting, sympathising. It has me caring and liking characters that I had never seen in cinema beforehand, and it is just, I just love All About My Mother. There's one of my favourite films that I've found this year. It's an absolute 5-star film for me. Like most of Almodóvar's films, just brilliant. 2000 brings about my favourite film, again for the time, so the one that moulded me. I was maybe unlucky in love is not the right word, but just useless with women, just useless in relationships. I think in general I was a bit more insular back in those days, and High Fidelity is my favourite film from that year, that John Cusack. It was the perfect mishmash of being a young man and also having music as a very strong influencer on my life. Those two things crashed together and had a central character in John Cusack, who was not the best looking person, was not the coolest person. He was just trying to be himself and be true to himself, but like as an absolute wally, for want of a better word. And he's surrounded by these curious people that we often find ourselves when we come into university or coming out of university, surrounded by ourselves with, and the people that have become very important is over the course of our life, but again trying to deny that they were important is a lot of things in that film that are just incredible. And Stephen Frears just did an incredible job of adapting that book. Other ones that came in that year, I mean, Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous, I loved in the cinema. Crouching Tiger, I loved at the time. Subsequently, since I've seen a lot more Asian films of that nature, it's not quite as impactful as it was back in those days, but it started something. Traffic came out that year. Wonder Boys, I absolutely loved, with Michael Douglas and Wes Payton, wasn't it? And Remember the Titans. Love Remember the Titans as well. It's one of those, again, very important family movies to us. Which brings me to 2001. The best film that I have picked from that year is Spirited Away, the Ghibli movie. Mainly because a lot of the other films just don't quite hit the same rewatchability for me now. That you'll know there's lots of great films from 2001. Royal Tenenbaums, I love Wes Anderson. I do. Moulin Rouge came out that year. Monsters Inc., probably my favourite Pixar movie. Second favourite, because we'll see that in a second. Harry Potter, first Harry Potter came out that year. First Lord of the Rings came out that year. That was quite important. Donnie Darko came out that year. But Spirited Away is the one that I keep on watching. And again, my kids will want to watch Spirited Away, so they'll bring Spirited Away and go, let's stick this on. And I think that more so than anything else overrides all the other emotions that I have about watching those other movies. 2002, another great year. Doctor by Almodovar came out that year. The Pianist by Polanski came out that year. Very nearly was my favourite film of that year. Ice Age, Two Towers came out. Dolls by Takeshi Kitano, which I think is his best movie for me, or that I've seen so far. Chicago came out, but City of God, the Brazilian film, was out in 2002. It's wonderful. If I ever do a top 150 list, we'll get to talk about City of God a bit more. But if you haven't seen City of God, about basically the violence of the younger generation in the favelas in Brazil, and about how people trying to break away and escape from it and finding that difficult. Brilliant movie. 2003, another great movie year. Swimming Pool by Francois Ozon was out that year. Really like Swimming Pool. Old Boy was out that year. Kill Bill Volume 1, great. Finding Nemo was out that year, but it really came down to two for me. So it's Mystic River and Lost in Translation. I don't know. I love them both. I've seen Mystic River a few more times, so if you want to give that the edge, you can. But Lost in Translation, equally that kind of... I couldn't even tell you why I love Lost in Translation so much. It has really great mood and setting. It has really good performances, but it's kind of not really about very much. It just kind of flows along and you get taken along with it. And if you ask my wife, she says the same thing. She loves Lost in Translation. Why? Not quite sure. Mr. River is definitely about something. It's a very impactful film. And one, again, full of just like an all-star cast. Uses the most of its cast to go and really quite strong from start to finish. 2004, bit of a down year for me. I mean, Sideways is good. Napoleon Dynamite's good. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou was nearly there. I went for another Pedro Almodovar, which is Bad Education. I mean, I've said previously in this video about how much I just love his movie making, the colour in it, the types of, but mainly it's about the characters that are in there and about how you don't see those characters very often or even portrayed. People doing dastardly and bad things, and yet still you find them watchable, etc. Bad Education I thought was really very good, and while a lot of people will say Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is the number one movie for that year, and it is a very good movie, it just, nothing ever hit the heights from Charlie Kaufman that, say, being John Malkovich did for me. That kind of shock of being so awesome, and everything else that came after that he did, while very good, just always fell a little short of that for me. So I mean, that's just a personal thing. 2005, right, the tough one. Constant Gardener said that year. Christ was that year. Kingdom of Heaven, which I thought is brilliant. Honestly, the best film that Ridley Scott has made maybe in 20 odd years, I think. That's in there. And Munich came out, but it really comes down to Batman Begins or War of the Worlds. I haven't talked about it here. I really like Tom Cruise as an actor. It's almost certainly an absolute whatever in real life, but as an actor, man doesn't make bad movies. I mean, I even like Vanilla Sky. What can I say? I think Vanilla Sky is really good. No, that's not a commonly held thought, but it is. And I remember watching War of the Worlds in the cinema and being just gripped by it. But Batman Begins is really good as well. This is one of these ones I left till I was speaking to you to say anything, and yeah, let's go Batman Begins. I think anything else would be disingenuous. I love origin stories. I just do, especially superhero origin stories, even though Batman's not much of a superhero as it turns out. But I do love Batman Begins, and there's Liam Neeson in it. There you go. No other reason than Liam Neeson's good in it. And he's country man, he's from just up the road. There you go. We'll go for that being the reason. 2006, strong year. Strong year. Departed's out that year. Dreamgirls, great. The Flights of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima from Clint Eastwood were both out that year. Pan's Labyrinth was out that year. Volver was out that year. Prestige was out that year. Little Miss Sunshine was out that year. I'm going to go back and remake my greatest year in cinema, because it might be 2006, because none of those films made my top two. Did I say Babel? Babel was it that year? And my top two come down to The Lives of Others, the story about the bird, well, espionage or listening out between the Cold War, so Eastern European or Eastern Germany. It's just an utterly fabulous movie. In fact, I have it behind me here. The Lives of Others, honestly, these things in a standing thriller, a masterpiece, are well earned. Just brilliant movie. But I'm going to go for Children of Men. Children of Men, again, was another great conceit for the movie. The fact that there was one woman left on earth with the ability to bear kids, and she's protected and shunted around, etc., and hidden for good or for bad, or no matter what you're thinking. But, you know, just emotion and storytelling and drama from start to finish, and really the pinnacle of Clive Owen's career. He had a bit of a purple patch around this time from Closer, etc., going through, but Children of Men, just all great. 2007, not a strong year. It has some good films. It has Across the Universe, Gone Baby Gone, Into the Wild, which I really like, No Country for Old Men, which I'm sure is a lot of people's pick for that year. It even has Mad Detective by Johnny To, which I think's great. But I went for, well, it was a toss-up between two. It was between Juno, which I think a lot of people liked at the time. I think Ellen Page is great, and it was very Twee and Coen Brothers-esque. But I went for Stardust. And again, Stardust evokes memories of family for me. It's mainly the start of my marriage. So the year after we got married, we watched Stardust together, and I've watched Stardust, and I've bought the book for my wife. And it's funny because the book and that don't totally match. I think the film is a bit more Disney-esque than the book, etc., but still wonderfully told, and one that I really liked, and that kind of young boy gonna save the world kind of feeling that's in that movie is great. And then 2008 has Dark Knight. Most people have picked Dark Knight. Some people might pick Slumdog Millionaire or Iron Man. I doubt it. Dark Knight's gonna beat most of them. For me, two films that I don't really talk an awful lot about it. Well, I've done a video on Waltz with Bashir. It's excellent. The Headless Woman came out that year, Lucrecia Martel's, and I've been working on a Lucrecia Martel video for I don't know how long. It's taken a long time to do, mainly because it's kind of not about an awful lot, but it should. I'll talk about it there. The Headless Woman basically tells a story of a woman who has an incident, or does she have an incident, or what she thinks happens in the incident, how it all plays out. It's a great, if you ever get the chance to watch A Headless Woman, you can go and check it out. But I'm going to pick, as great a movie as Dark Knight is, I'm going to pick Gran Torino, because Gran Torino, it can blew my head off for how great that movie was, again, without very much happening. And in the movie, it's about the relationship of an old man who's very much quintessentially, you know, set in his ways, and is influenced basically by a young Muslim family that moves in from Iran, if I remember. They move in down the street, and how their sense of family impacts on him and his loneliness, and even though he's very initially quite dismissive of them, how they start to influence his life. I just love Gran Torino. I think it's really special, and it again is one of those films that I would credit with watching and just sit back and going, wow, what incredibly powerful filmmaking. Even if it is overly sentimental at times, even if it is played a bit too over the top, but that's what cinema is sometimes. And I'm a sucker for melodrama. Things that I've discovered about myself, melodrama works for me most of the time. Christ, I cried Jerry Maguire. I thought it's like, what can I say? And that's the end of that part. Again, thanks very much for watching. Okay, Dark Knight probably should have won for most people. You know, lots of things should have won. It's my list. Make your own video. Go for it. Thanks very much for watching. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.